Hey, 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 whoever's out there. How are y'all doing tonight? I cannot believe I am up on a Wednesday night, 10:17, with a full work schedule tomorrow. But I really wanted to post a review of season 4, episode 4 of Ready to Love. And the title of it was called Sipping Wine, Spilling Tea. So this time the ball is in the ladies' court and they meet up with Tommy at the ladies' lounge. And Doc and Tommy's talking to him. What I like about the shows is he's always giving like a reason to go, like, what are you looking for at the end of the day? And so he's asking the ladies to really dig deep with the men and get to know them, like leave no stone unturned so they can make sure that they are making genuine connections. So for this season, that is what their mission is when they go on these dates with the men. So for the rest of the episodes, they're broken down by dates, and I'm just going to go over and touch on some of the dates that I found, like some of the things I liked about each date. And then we'll wrap up with who was eliminated. The smile should tell you who was eliminated, but we'll get to that at the end. So the first date was Vernisha and Joelle. If that's Joelle's house, it's a really nice house. It's really like nothing was out of place. And I'm sure the producers probably had a hand in that in curating the home for the TV show. So Vernisha walks up to Joelle's house, and let's take a moment to talk about her outfit. Was she wearing a bra? Was she wearing panties? Because it didn't, I don't think she was, because we were seeing everything. There was nothing left to the imagination. And I swore when the door opened and they showed her from the front, like her headlights were on. If you know what I mean? Her headlights were on. So I cannot do it, y'all. I need my layer under my layers. She looked like she was walking around without anything. I mean, for Joel, I don't blame you, girl. I don't blame you. But Joel made brunch for them, and they sat around and they just talked about, just like their connection and how it's been developing. And they both seem very family oriented. Like they're thinking about their children and how they're going to fit in their relationship. So that's what I did value about their date. Some of the highlights. So I think it was a pretty good date. Like that, they kept their connection strong. The next date was Mr. Troy. That one. Oh, my finger actually points to him. And Miss Fly Jones, Alexis Fly Jones. And I actually liked her at this date with Troy. She wasn't pulling any punches. Sat down. As soon as she came in, he kissed her on her temple. They sat down, and she said, like, I know you've been trying to reach me, but I just haven't been returning your call. And he's like, yeah. She's like, well, it looks like, I'm not just your number one. Some of the ladies and I've gotten together, and you're promising everyone trips, and you're kissing everyone, and you're telling everyone that they're your number one. And he's like, oh, really? Then he gets into a state of denial. He's like, oh, I don't even remember kissing. I didn't realize it. Like, I'm like, you're so pathological in your like creepy behavior that you don't even realize that you're doing it. But I know you're doing it because you said in one of the confessionals that the kiss is your signature move. So you're bullshit. You're bullshit. Like my skin tightened when he was in denial, because I was like, you were so full of shit. Like you're such a creeper. You're such a like, oh my God, I want to call you Troy Epstein, Troy Weinstein, Troy Cosby. Like those are your people. You are so creepy. And then he said, they don't flinch. They act like they enjoy it. We can have a whole discussion on just the toxicity of men. We're not gonna do it in this episode. We're just gonna get through it. But they don't flinch. They act like they enjoy it. In this day and age, with the Me Too movement, every woman talking at this point, that we don't. Oh, sometimes we freeze that seems like consent to enjoy. You are out of your fucking mind, Troy. Out of your fucking mind. I was wanted to throw my remote at the screen. Um, but we got to move on. We got to move on. I don't want to make these videos like any longer than they have been. The next date was Amber and KG, and they were at a boxing date. And I was like, it was all right date. There's nothing, I don't, when I watch them, I'm just like, they're kind of blah. They're just kind of there. Just, I really don't care for their chemistry or their relationship, but they did share some things that, they do share that in common, that they have strained kind of non-traditional families. Amber was adopted at 5, and she seems to be the only sibling that's doing well in her life, going to college, becoming a lawyer. And KG Smooth shared that his dad has 11 children with 9 different women, and he didn't really know his dad. So they did share that. And it seems to me like that she has a more masculine energy and he has a more feminine energy. And I've heard that that's what usually people are connecting. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I want to dive in deeper to that and see, like, I mean, I hear opposites attract, but like, does it work like that? Like a masculine energy from a female and a male energy? A masculine energy from a female and a feminine energy from a male. How well does that work? But that's all I got out of that date there. Next up was Stacy and David, and all I got from this one is just like, well, I got a couple things. One is Stacy's rude. Like the minute he walked in, she said, "Oh, you're late." And I'm just like, "Oh, okay." And then she called him old. I was like, "All right, girl. Like, you're kind of like you're a ball buster," and I get that because I'm the same way, but not in the first 5 minutes of a date. Like, dude, I don't even think he put his cell phone down and took off the socks for the Pilates, and you're already like ribbing him. I'm like, chill out. And I'm glad he got back. He's like, well, she's like, you need to be careful because you're old. He's like, you need to be careful with your jokes. And I like that banter back. Like, listen, I'm gonna check you too because you're trying to check me. There was no chemistry between them. And then they have this conversation, which could, like, spark my interest too, because they talked about privacy. Stacy mentioned that trust is a deal breaker for her. And so this led David to ask, like, are you asking men to show their social medias or their phone? He asked about knowing passwords, and she's like, no, if a guy did that, that's considered a red flag. So she doesn't want codes or Instagram. And she actually said there's a difference between transparency, trust, and privacy. And David said he differs. He wants to be very vulnerable. He said privacy. He says that, like, he doesn't want any secrets between him and his next partner. But to Stacy, like, she was like, no, that sounds very controlling. And to me, I feel like they were having 2 different conversations. I didn't really like think deeply into it because I just never, I'll just be honest. In my last relationship, I was checking his phone. And I was like, and I found things that I didn't want to find. It's like, oh, but next relationship, I don't want to be in that situation where I want to look. So I understand David. I was like, I want to be so vulnerable and so interested that I don't have those feelings where I was like, what else are you doing? I want my partner to have their own privacy and, not feel like someone's hovering over them or doesn't trust them. But I don't want secrecy, like they're sneaking around. And I think they were talking about two different things, and that's why they didn't connect as well. We have a couple more dates on here, about 4 more dates. The next one was AJ and Liz and Jason and Liz. AJ and Liz, and Jason and Alexis. Alexis goes on a lot of dates. And I'm like, your personnel, maybe the way they're editing her on the show, we're not seeing all her personnel, but she gets picked a lot. She's taking up a lot of screen time. So what I got out of this is, one, I don't know what that Canadian tuxedo with the high boots Alexis was wearing. Again, she's fly. Her friends call her fly, but these outfits. Anyways, let's see here. So what I got out of this is when Jason and Alexis were sitting on the couch after they were playing the game, Jason's body language was very turned away, had his arms crossed. He was not inviting to her. And Alexis she was all turned into him, leaned into him. And you can tell she's very aggressive, and he's just like not picking up on that. He is not feeling her at all. And then she brings up like her period. It's like, what? It's just too much. She's like throwing too much at him and he's not feeling you. He's not like, reel it in. Miss Thirsty Alexis Fly Jones. Come on. Slow down. Then we switch over to AJ and Liz talks about how she's abstinent, she's absent, practicing abstinence before marriage. And how does AJ feel about that? And AJ's like, I'm not really feeling, that's not what I'm headed for. I like a natural progression in a relationship, and if the sex is a part of it, absolutely. But I'm not completely leaving it off the table. And so at that, there was no need to move further with them. Next up was Ron and Chrysanthemum, who we didn't see in the last episode. So I was wondering where they're at, but they had a little cute date. It was called the Cute Date at the Candy Shack, where they play Connect Four and Bang It, and their drinks look really good. I like those like refreshing, like kind of look like Starbursty type drinks, like candy and something. It looked really, really good. Chrysanthemum seems more like a traditional woman versus Andrea, who he talked to in previous episodes. So she's looking for someone to protect and provide for her and to be taken care of. And Ron was like, well, that sounds easy to me. He said, that's what I'm looking for. He wants to protect and provide. And they both agreed that they wanted they want a fun partner and want to have a fun marriage. So they seem like they hit it off really well. I don't really care for the relationship. When they're on screen, I'm like, okay, whatever. But they seem to really hit it off. So we'll see where it goes from there. And then the last date of the episode was Liz and David. And I really I was wanting for them to get together since they were in the first episode, the mixing and mingle one, where they sat and they sang church music together. They're both very spiritual. They both have that foundation. They both want to wait till marriage, even though they're both in the 40s. They want to wait until marriage to consummate the relationship. So they talked about what led them to these points and why they're on the TV show. And for David, he said, he got married in his 20s, really early, really young. That didn't end. Then his second marriage was very short-lived, and she walked out on him after a year. And I'm like, he didn't go into detail, or they edited out why why the marriage ended so abruptly. But I'm interested in knowing, and I think there are some videos about what's going on. I think his ex-wife is talking. So I don't know if I want to look into those or not until maybe the reunion or something like that. There seems like there's a lot under the surface with him, because it doesn't seem like he's resolved a lot of stuff. So when he talks about things, you can hear the emotion in his voice. And I'm only saying that because that's something with me. Like if I feel like if I'm talking and I feel like I really haven't processed something, I start to get that quiver in my voice. I start to cry. It's because I haven't dealt with it on my, this maybe the first time I'm really processing it in front and I'm doing it out loud. But I want to believe in David, and I want to believe that he's looking for love, and this is it. But time will tell with his energy. As far as for Liz, what I remember is she just said she was, I don't really, don't really remember, because I'm looking at my notes and all I said is that she's wearing a really ugly top, and how much I hate plastic tops, and how Amber wore a plastic outfit like that during the brunch. I wasn't paying attention to what Liz said. Please forgive me. And I looked at what they were eating. It looked like they were eating Gordon's fish sticks and soup ramen. It was a really weird dinner. It's just I don't know what that is, but that was their date. That's what we're just gonna go with that. So the ladies meet up at the ladies' lounge with Tommy, and they compare notes. Vernicia's glowing about her date, and so is Liz, talking about David. And Amber's talking about how much she enjoyed her time with Chris, and Chrysanthemum, that's when she likes Ron. Then the women switch over to, the men that they don't like. And Stacey brings up that she didn't like that David was talking about passwords, Instagrams, but the way she brought it up to the table was that she brought up gossip, girl, this is what he wants. This is the way she misinterpreted. It was like she played telephone. He told her something and she took and ran with it. And that's not really what she was trying to say. She was trying to be salacious at the table rather than try to provide real information about who David is. So that ended up putting David at the bottom. And then, who was automatically at the bottom? Mr. Bugaboo, Mr. Troy here. because he's just creepy and he's just promising women too much. So the date, so as usual, the two people who are on the bottom are going on a date. They don't realize that they're at the bottom. But Stacy talks to Troy and Amber talks to David. And so for David, Amber brings up, the conversation that was had, and David immediately said, like, okay, that was with Stacy and that was misinterpreted. He just wants to be in a relationship where he has nothing to hide. And even though Amber says, like, oh, it feels like you're living back in your past because you want to control certain things now, David said the past is what made him who he is now. So he seems to have an answer for everything, to a very fleshed out answer to explain where he was coming from as far as the transparency and no privacy stance. And when that was brought up in the ladies' lounge, Liz didn't care. She was like, that's the way she operates as well. So it seems like they connect on Liz and David connect on multiple points besides the church foundation, but also about transparency and privacy. So David is safe, but they just wanted to discuss why he's at the bottom for the women. Then Stacy talks to Troy and she said, basically, you're laying it low and spreading it wide. Like, and Troy downplays it, but he's like, no, I disagree, but okay, that's what your decision is. But then he's talking to cameras like, I'm ready for love. Are you guys ready? Are you guys? Are you down? Are you down? I'm like, don't ask me the question. Don't ask the questions here. I asked the question. Like, back up, creeper. Like, go. Oh my God, he's out in the world, ladies, and there's more than one of him. Like, there's tons of guys like him. But that is Ready to Love season 4, episode 4. And I will be back with another review of the show. Until then, take care of yourself. Ciao.